We don't need the Ready Talk. So we are able to share my screen with you, and what I'm working on now is just getting my iPad on the screen. Typically, there we go, I use a webcam, but we're using Reflector today in this particular platform. So we will get started now without any further delay. Thank you for your patience. Again, you can use that chat if you have any questions along the way, and I'll do my best to go back and check that for an update. And there will be a handout that you will receive at the end with a list of apps that I'm going over as well. So thank you for your patience. We're going to get started with, as I mentioned, the accessibility settings, which are built into every iOS device, iPad, iPad mini, iPod Touch, and iPhone. So it is what looks like a gear. My mouse is hovering over it here. Yours may be up here somewhere on your screen. I like to put it down here on my tool dock so that it is available on no matter what page I'm on my iPad. If I flip through my folders, you can see I have hundreds of apps, but I can always get to my settings by having it down there on the toolbar. And you just press and hold to move any of the apps down there on your toolbar. So we're going to go into my settings and your settings if you're following along. And when you click on Settings, on the left-hand side, you will want to be on General just by tapping on General. And on the right-hand side, you will see Accessibility. Except my reflector, of course, just bounced it out. So I'm going to open that back up, get back into our settings here. And we're mirroring with Reflector. There we go. I do typically use an external webcam to avoid that, but it's not available to this platform. So we're going to do our best with Reflector. So once again, we're tapping on Settings. And on the left-hand side, you're on General. And on the right-hand side, we're going to tap on Accessibility to go to those accessibility settings that are built into the iOS devices. And when you're using the built-in accessibility settings, this can enhance or even make this device accessible to an individual that has disabilities, and right from the get-go built into the device before you even add any apps. So they're good for you to know about, and they will play a role in some of the apps that I show you today. The first accessibility setting on the iPad or iOS device is VoiceOver. Before we turn VoiceOver on, especially if you're using it along with me, you want to go to the very bottom of the list to where it says Accessibility Shortcuts. And this is very important because sometimes when you turn on VoiceOver, if you're a new user of VoiceOver and you don't have VoiceOver on your accessibility shortcut, it's very difficult to get back into your settings and turn VoiceOver off. And then you can't stop your iPad from talking to you, and it can be very frustrating. And so with VoiceOver being on your shortcut, so I tapped on Accessibility Shortcut, and you can see here it brings me to a list of my accessibility settings. I have Guided Access as an option there on my shortcut, and I also am going to tap VoiceOver, so there's a check mark there. And you also want to tap VoiceOver if you're doing this along with me, and make sure that you see that check mark next to VoiceOver. What this does is it puts it on your shortcut, which means that home button at the bottom of your iPad with the little square instead of the dot, that home button, when you tap it 3 times fast, 1, 2, 3, it's going to turn VoiceOver on. And when you tap it again, 1, 2, 3, it turns VoiceOver off. So it's a very quick and easy way to turn VoiceOver on or off. And sometimes you only need it on for a short time to use in certain apps, and other times you may be exploring how to use VoiceOver and you want to shut it off immediately. And that is good to put it on your accessibility shortcut so you're able to do that. So I'll demonstrate. I'll turn VoiceOver on, but instead of tapping on VoiceOver here to turn it on, I'm going to hit my home button 3 times fast. 1, 2, 3.
Landscape.
So VoiceOver is on, and you know that because when you tap on the screen,
Notification. Control Center. Do not disturb. Buttons.
It will read whatever you tap out loud.
Accessibility. Backup VoiceOver. On. VoiceOver practice. Button.
So for a typical user, when we touch the screen, it automatically engages or chooses that. But for someone who's blind, they need to listen to that first, and then they're able to double tap on the screen to choose it. You can see some other options under VoiceOver are changing the speaking rate to make it faster or slower, and you can also have speak hints on. The way to go through a menu when VoiceOver is on is to right swipe on the screen.
Speaking rate, heavy speech, button, Braille, button.
And to go backwards, it's a left swipe. You'll notice under VoiceOver there's the option for Braille. This is because you can connect a refreshable Braille display. If you're not familiar with that device, it's a wonderful device, and you can connect it to an iPad via Bluetooth or a computer. And it does provide real-time Braille for everything that you see on the iPad, whether it's a website, your email, an app. It will say it out loud with VoiceOver, and in real-time Braille, those pins press up for the individual who reads Braille to be able to read that information in Braille, their ebooks, their worksheets, their handouts. They can read it in Braille, and they can use the shortcut keys to type in Braille. If you're not familiar with that device, I can show you a picture of one real quick. So I just tapped on Safari with VoiceOver on, and if I want to go into Safari, I double tap on my screen, and that will open up the Internet.
Assistive Technology for Education, LLC.
And I'm going to turn off VoiceOver by pressing my home button 3 times fast again. 1, 2, 3. Oops, I pressed it twice. 1, 2, 3.
VoiceOver off.
There we go. So we'll go back into, so on my website here, if you're interested in seeing an example of a refreshable Braille display, we have many examples of several different types of assistive technology here. And just get down to, there we go. So refreshable Braille displays, so there they are. So that's what they look like. So whatever's on the iPad screen, whether it's their book, their textbook, an ebook, their worksheet or handout, I'll show you how to pull those into apps today, pops up in real-time Braille on this little series of pins here, and you can see their shortcut keys for typing in Braille, which of course they're typing in Braille, but it shows up on a Word document or worksheet in typed text. So an educator or a professional who's working with someone who reads Braille and is typing using a refreshable Braille display, you do not need to know how to read Braille yourself because it's going to show up as text on the screen. So you connect those devices through VoiceOver, which I was showing in your accessibility settings. So a very helpful device to have along with the screen being read out loud for someone who's blind or low vision. And if you're beginning to use VoiceOver on the iPad and you're not familiar with it, 2 excellent apps to start to use VoiceOver are VO Starter and VO Tutorial. So the icons are there on my screen, and you can use either one. They're free, and it walks a person through using VoiceOver. You'll see it will prompt you to turn VoiceOver on, and it will walk you through buttons and alerts and text fields and all of those things there to become really fast at using the iPad or iOS device while you're using VoiceOver. And again, this is on any iOS device, large or small. This accessibility setting is built into all of them, and you can use this app to learn how to use VoiceOver or let your student use it to become accustomed with how to use VoiceOver as well. So back into our accessibility settings, tapping on settings, and underneath VoiceOver is Zoom. If you don't use the pinch zoom that's on the iPad built in, which we'll use as well, sometimes it's not available in some apps or applications on the iPad that you might be using. So when Zoom is turned on, it allows you to take 3 fingers and double tap on the screen, and that makes the screen larger and zooms in. And you can move that screen with 3 fingers as well, so you can make it even larger. 3-finger double tap on the screen, and it puts it down to typical size. Invert colors, when you turn invert colors on, it does change the screen to the opposite contrast, white on black. Not showing on reflector, so it must do the opposite effect when reflector is in mode, but if you want to try that on your own. And speech, the very last one there under grayscale, which can be helpful as well. The very important speech by default, a speak selection, this is turned off on your iOS devices. And this is going to allow an individual to select certain text to be read out loud. If you're on the iPad researching and you need to have that text read out loud because you're low vision or because you have learning disability or simply for comprehension, speak selection allows you to turn this on, and you can choose to have the entire screen spoken. You can see there by swiping down with 2 fingers from the top. You can change the voices as far as English and other languages, and you can change the speaking rate here as well, faster or slower, and you can choose to have the words highlighted as it's spoken aloud. So someone can see the text, but they have a difficult time with reading the text and they want to hear that out loud. It's a great thing to turn Speak Selection on. And to demonstrate that, when Speak Selection is on, if we go back out to the internet as mentioned, and maybe they're on a website and they want to have information read out loud, you simply press and hold on the screen and move those blue dots to select the text that they want to have read out loud. I'm trying to make that selection a little bit smaller, and then you can see the last option to the right there says Speak. And if you tap on Speak,
individuals who are blind and need screen reading and keyboard shortcuts to access the internet, email, and other computer applications for communication, employment, education.
Got cut off a little bit there, but so you can see Speak Selection can be an excellent tool to use while researching as well. Back into our accessibility settings, there is larger text that you can increase the text size on your messages and your notes and so forth, which can be very helpful for someone who's low vision, so any of us who are losing sight over time as well. And bold text and button shapes. So definitely you want to increase the button shape that you lost if you updated from iOS 6 to iOS 7 and then 8. You noticed it went from 3D to 2D and very flat looking. And for some people that was difficult if they were low vision. And maybe even for someone who has a learning disability who really needs things really described or shown visually descriptive. So having those button shapes outlined is a very helpful feature as well. Further down for hearing aids, you can certainly, for someone who's using hearing aids, turn on mono audio, put all of the sound to the left or the right, so if they hear better out of one ear or another. Turn on subtitles and captioning when they're available. Guided access is phenomenal for those button-happy students. By turning guided access on, you'll choose a 4-digit passcode. Don't forget that passcode. Write it down, save it in a folder, make it your PIN number for your ATM card, whatever works well for you to remember that, but don't forget that passcode. When you set that passcode and you turn guided access on, what it does is it keeps that student in that app that you're using or that website, and it won't let them hit the home button to go back out to another game or another website or something that they are interested in doing other than what you're trying to keep them engaged doing. So guided access, use that when your students are trying to exit out. It'll prompt them for the passcode that they won't have, and they will stay in that app and continue to use that app or in that website. It also allows you to disable certain buttons that are in an app. So for example, if there was an app that offered to go back or go forward and you wanted a student to just progress forward with guided access on, you could circle that go back button and disable it so it no longer worked. So a great feature. Switch access and switch control is available. So there are various switches. Again, there are some examples on my website if you'd like to go back and look at those at any time if you're not familiar with switches. You can activate a switch and connect the switch to an iPad or iOS device to someone who has a physical disability. It may be difficult for them to use the gestures that we use to access the iPad, so they can use a switch which would scan on the iPad and allow them to hit the switch when they wanted to select something and hit the switch again to do something else like open an app or do an activity in an app. So that's just a brief overview of most of the accessibility features and the ones that we'll be using today with some of the apps that I'm going to show you. And the first app that we're going to start with, you'll get a few bonus ones here, and I will try to fit them all in our time. I think we'll be able to do so fine. So Google Drive or Dropbox. I recommend one or the other. They're both free. So as mentioned, just in case I don't want to lose you here as far as what I'm doing because I know there's a slight delay, as mentioned, I have hundreds of apps and folders that I've created. So what I'm doing to get right to the app that I want to show you is I'm swiping down from about the middle of my iPad screen and swipe down with my finger. And that offers me the search bar. And then I can search specifically for the iPad app that I want to show you. So the first one I wanted to search for is Google Drive, and it pops right up there because I use it often. So you can see that it's the same icon for Google Drive if you're using Google Drive in schools. A lot of schools are going Google. Students are using Google Drive and they're using Google Docs, and that's wonderful. It's free. You save worksheets and handouts there, and then you're able to pull those into apps and do something with it. It also backs up your documents so that you don't lose them. if your iPad breaks or you get a virus on your computer, if you have saved all your Word documents, PDFs, Excel spreadsheets, photos, etc. into a drive or a Dropbox, they are backed up. You can get to them from any device at any place. If your student goes home or to a public library or a friend's house and they've saved something in their drive at school, that's going to be waiting for them in any other location, whether it's on a computer, an iPad, an Android tablet. It's available on all devices at all places. So it's really wonderful to use the cloud storage of either Drive, Google Drive, or Dropbox. So that's the icon at the top there for Google Drive. If you're using Dropbox, another wonderful cloud storage, I have both. So there's the icon for Dropbox. It's a white box with another blue box inside of it. It does the same thing as I mentioned. You save worksheets, handouts, any other documents, PowerPoints, etc. into one or the other. And it's not only backup, but it's how you're going to get those worksheets and handouts and activities into the apps that I'm going to show you today. So you just need one or the other. They're both free. If I tap on Dropbox to go into my Dropbox, for example, you'll see I have several files on the left-hand side. I could search for them alphabetically, or I could separate them into folders, which many students do. And they have folders for each class. And on the right-hand side, you can see I have this document open. It is a PDF. This is just an AT observation data collect form, but this could be any worksheet or handout that your student has saved in their Dropbox. And the process is very similar if you're in Google Drive and you've gotten to this PDF. So if you're following along, feel free to find a PDF. And the way to get this worksheet into an app in order to do something with it is those three little dots to the right-hand side there, the top right corner, those series of three dots. It looks like an ellipses. And when you tap on there, whoops, they've changed my drive. So let me correct myself. Now it is the square with the arrow pointing up. When you update your app, this is what happens. The symbols change. It was the three dots in the top right corner. If you've updated to the new drive, it's now the little box with the arrow pointing up. So the little box with the arrow pointing up, tap on there, and this is how you can do quite a few things with this document. You could email it or send it to someone. You could certainly print it out. You can print from iPads and iOS devices as long as your iPad is on the same wireless internet network as that printer. I print from mine all the time at home. I print from them at different schools that have the wireless printers as long as I make sure my iPad is connected to their wireless network. You can print. Nothing is stuck on the iPad. You can print, email, and you can see the third option on the bottom there says Open In. It's a little app symbol. This means you can open this document in an app, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to tap on Open In. And now I have my list of apps that I could open this document in. And if I scroll to the right, I have several options of what I could open this PDF in to do something with. The one I'm going to choose right now is Annotate PDF. Little I, little a, Annotate PDF. It looks like IA in script. So I tap on the symbol for Annotate, and it's taking that document from my Dropbox and pulling it into this app. So now this document is opened in the Annotate PDF app, and I can do something with it. The first thing that I can do is enlarge it by just the reverse pinch. So if you put your fingers in the middle of the screen of the iPad and reverse pinch, you can increase the size of the document that is in here. You can also move it. So you can just scroll with your finger and move that document after you've enlarged it. So an individual who has low vision can enlarge this document so that they can read it and complete certain sections at a time. After they're done completing it, it's just the pinching movement on the screen that puts it back down to typical size, and it will save all of the writing in there, and then they'll share it with the professor or instructor. The toolbar to fill this worksheet or handout in is to the right-hand side there, and the first tool I'm going to use is that pencil. And today I'm using a stylus. If you're not familiar with a stylus, it is the tool that you can use to write on an iPad. It looks like a pen with a little bit of a fatter tip, and there's so many different styluses out there. They're available in Walmart or Target or Best Buy or any of the electronic stores. They're every shape and color, every size. There's fat ones, skinny ones. There's every color, etc. So you can use your finger or you can use a stylus if you want a writing utensil. And I'm going to tap on the pencil symbol, and you'll see here with all of these features, you can do something, meaning you can change the color, for example. So I can change what color I want to write in this worksheet. And I'm going to choose blue. I also have the sliders there to change the thickness of my pencil or my pen. So even though the stylus tip may be fat, I'm still going to be able to choose to have a thin line on my worksheet. So I've chosen what color, and I can begin writing. I do have my iPad at an awkward angle for writing, so it's not very neat there. But if this was a math worksheet, they could definitely be putting in the math work here. There's an eraser option, so if I tap on the eraser and then just start swiping where I wrote, you can see 4x plus 5x is now disappearing. I am erasing that. I made a mistake. Very quick to correct a mistake. Below the pencil is the highlighter. Again, you can change this to be any color. Maybe this is a packet of 10 pages that a teacher gave to read about Aristotle or whatever the class is studying, and they want to highlight those important information pieces. So you just highlight. I'm just swiping my stylus on the screen over the places that I want to highlight. Below that is underline. Again, you can change to make any color and underline something on the worksheet. I just underlined student to the left there. Below the underline is the feather feature. So if I tap on the feather, this was designed for a signature. So you just tap where you want to add the signature, and it's an enlarged box for you to sign your name. But you can see how this also zooms in on a particular part of the worksheet. So if they needed to just focus on one portion of the worksheet, they could do that. Sticky notes are below that. So a lot of times some educators have iAnnotate on their iPad, and the students have it on theirs as well. And they're sending back and forth an essay or something that they're working on, and the teachers can leave comments, circle, highlight, leave sticky notes, etc. So a great collaboration tool. Below the sticky notes is text or typing. So if I tap on the T, again you can see I could change the color. I can change the font style and size, all of those same features that you would have in a word processor. And then I'm going to tap where I want to begin typing, and I just begin typing my answer here with the keyboard. Now what's wonderful about an iPad 3 or newer, so if you have the iPad 3 or newer, next to the space bar on the keyboard you'll see that little microphone. Right to the left of the space bar. That's the built-in voice recognition built into the iOS devices. So if you have this app and the worksheet is pulled up and you have a student who physically is unable to type or struggles with spelling and would use more mature language or fill in their worksheets faster if they were able to speak their answers, you simply tap the microphone, which I'm going to do now, speak my answer. And you can see I just said the sentence, speak my answer, and that's exactly what it put into my worksheet there. So I just tapped on the microphone and spoke my answer into that particular portion to answer that question. Below that is the printer. As mentioned, if you're connected to a printer, you will be able to print if you are on the same network as the printer is on, the same Wi-Fi network. Below the printer is a camera. So for students who typically are going to be using this particular app or another app that you can annotate worksheets, handouts, etc. with, if they're going to be using this app to complete their work, you want them to have the accommodation of receiving their worksheets and handouts in PDF format or in digital format. All scanners and printers scan right to PDF, so there's no conversion necessary, which is wonderful. You just save it as that same PDF. And if teachers are using Google Drive, they're going to save this as a PDF and just share it with a student. They can share it with 1 student or 10 students, and that student's already going to have it in their Drive to pull into this app. Sometimes, however, we get to classes and the teacher has not offered the student this particular worksheet or handout in digital format, we know that happens, and they're passing out the worksheet to all the other students, and this student wants the worksheet on their iPad. So this particular app, Annotate PDF, has that camera feature below the printer there on the toolbar so that you can take a picture of that worksheet and pull it into this app in order to be able to complete it. It's not as good of quality, but it offers that access quickly. It's a picture of it. And then they can still use all these tools to complete it. So that's an option. Below that, you can see the envelope for emailing. You will email the annotated. So you just make sure this iPad is connected to an email. You do that right in your settings, whether it's the student's email or the teacher's email, and then you're emailing it to other teachers or yourself if you need to print it out from another location. You certainly do that. And below that, I also have the voice note, the microphone there. So that means that you can leave little voice notes. So again, if the teacher's editing perhaps this document and sending it back to the student, maybe the student has a difficult time reading their comments, so the teacher can leave the voice clips instead, and then the student can listen to that feedback. The plus sign at the very top of the toolbar allows you to add several other tools. So if I just tap on all tools, you can see there's many other things that you can add to the toolbar here. And it's just a simple tap and drag from the toolbar to get something off, and tap and drag to put something on the toolbar. So this one is Annotate PDF. The other one that I recommend that is very similar to it is called Claro PDF. And these both I count as one in the top 5. So you would have one or the other. Same with Dropbox or Google Drive. They count as one of the top 5. So you're really getting much more. So Dropbox or Google Drive to start with, to save those worksheets and handouts so that you can use them on the iPad. And then either Annotate PDF or this one, which is Claro PDF. And I'll show you the difference. And the difference mainly is that with Claro PDF, you can annotate it. I'm going to pull up the PDF document for you to see here. The same one. So we want to open the same form so you can see. So the toolbar here, by tapping on the pencil, is at the top. But the difference is that Claro PDF will also read this PDF out loud to them. So if they need to hear the questions and then write the answers, I don't think you can hear the volume there, unfortunately, but it is reading out loud that sentence, team members who will collect data. So if they need to have the PDF read out loud and the option to annotate, then they would want Claro PDF. The only difference, again, is that Claro PDF does not offer the camera feature if you need to take a picture of it. So if only these two app developers would add that additional feature that the other one has, I'd only have one on my iPad. But really up to you and your students and the feature that they need in regards to annotating the PDF. I do want to just click on the chat here real quick to see if we have any questions here. Oh, I think I answered the one about having it read to you. And yes, I can erase the word hand. So Jill was asking if I can erase what was last written. And so at the time I had written hand, and I had written some math work, so I could have erased the word hand as well. And back to the app. Thank you for those questions. So the next app that I'm going to show you is associated, or one of the things that you can do with it, I should say, with Bookshare. So I just want to make sure that as a group you are aware of Bookshare first and foremost. It's a wonderful organization and place where you can have access to downloading books for students with a print disability. And the next app that I'm going to show you works well with Bookshare, as well as documents and handouts in accessible format. If you're not familiar with Bookshare, or you've used it in the past, it's changed a lot. It's phenomenal. It's easy to use. It's so much easier to use than in the past, and there's some great free tools for you to be able to use with your students. Your students that qualify are your students with a print disability. That means they cannot access the printed written text in a book, and they need it in accessible format like audio or digital for text-to-speech or for increased text size or to use with a Braille display. And you can get that for free through Bookshare. And your students with a print disability, again, are those with a learning disability, specific LD or dyslexia. They're reading several grade levels below their peers. They're struggling with fluency and comprehension. Your students who are blind or low vision and can't see that text. Student with a physical disability who can't turn the pages of the text. And also students who have cortical visual impairment or traumatic brain injury. All those students qualify to use Bookshare for free. You can download the textbooks, math, science, reading, social studies, as well as chapter books, novels, anything they might use for a book report or research, etc. Getting started with Bookshare, you would sign up for an organizational account so the professionals at your school can download books for students, and the students can have a free individual account as well. It's so fast and easy to do. You don't have to send documentation anymore. And we also do Bookshare training. That's a whole other training and webinar. Feel free to contact me for follow-up if you need to learn how to use this wonderful tool. When you do have a Bookshare account, the app that I highly recommend that you use to access those Bookshare books and more is called Voice Dream Reader. So it's at the top of my page there. It looks like a little half of a face. Voice Dream Reader. And again, you will get a handout with the name of all these apps and how to get to them in the App Store and description at the end if you haven't already received it. So Voice Dream Reader, when I open this up, I'm going to go back to my bookshelf. This is what it opens up to, my bookshelf. I have books here from Bookshare. I also have documents and PDFs that I've pulled in from either my Dropbox or my Google Drive. If you've already saved those worksheets and handouts in Dropbox or Google Drive for your students, this is another way to pull them in so that they can have them in accessible format. If they need the accessible format of their textbook, they're also going to need the accessible format of those worksheets and handouts, and this is the app that you can do it with. To the bottom right, what looks like a gear, these are your settings. And this is where you will connect to your Dropbox or your Google Drive account. You click on it, you put in that same email and password, you're connected to all those documents. Bookshare, same thing. Once you set up that Bookshare account, you're going to click here, you're going to click Enable, and then you're going to put in your email and password, and you are going to be connected to that Bookshare account. You only need to do that the first time. From there on, to add something to your bookshelf, it's the bottom left, that plus symbol. Add something to my bookshelf. I'm going to add from either my Dropbox, my Google Drive, and at the very bottom there, Bookshare. There's a few other places you could pull things in from. You can see that, but those main ones that you'll use are either Dropbox, Google Drive, or Bookshare. You search for a book or you search for that document, and it's literally seconds to get onto your bookshelf, and then you have access to it. So I'll show you what all of those look like here. So if I tap on a book such as Dear Mr. Henshaw, this has some accessibility settings that I've already chosen. It would look black and gray to you. The top right, what looks like a speaker, these is your speaking rate and your speech options. So you can see at the top I could make the voice faster or slower. It comes with Heather for free, but what is wonderful about Voice Dream Reader is at the bottom of this menu you can add voices. And there are so many voices to choose from. Male, female, adult, student voices, child voices, voices with accents if you have English language learners, and they're really nice natural sounding voices that are available. The Ivona voices, where you see Ivona or Neo Speech or Acapella, those are the different quality of voices, synthesized voices, and the Ivona voices are more expensive because they're better quality, they're more natural sounding. Once you purchase the voice, you own it forever, unlimited for as many books as you ever download or worksheets or handouts that you ever pull in. So it's a one-time fee. And again, it does come with Heather for free, so if you happen to like Heather, you're in luck. Try the voices before you buy them. You can play that sample, which is great. If we had more time, I'd play some for you, but I want to get through all the apps. Definitely check that out. There is a free version of this app, so you can check it out before you buy it if you want to do that. Once you've chosen your voice, the AA are your text settings, and there are so many options to change the text here specifically for someone who has difficulty with reading or a learning disability or visual impairment. So you can see that you can have the spoken word and spoken line highlighted or neither. Some other options there including lines visible. Right now I have all lines visible. So if I tap on one, you can see here that it isolates one or two sentences at a time, which can be really helpful for someone who needs to focus if you need that screen masking. So you can have one line visible or all. You can also change the font style. So further down in the options, the font style, there's several here that are available, including the Open Dyslexic. If you're not familiar, the Open Dyslexic font is created by an individual who has dyslexia. It has the heavier weighted tops and bottoms of the letters. And for some individuals and students with dyslexia has shown that it increases fluency, comprehension, and reading speed for those students. Not going to help all of your students, but it's good to expose them to it to see if it makes a difference for them. I've had at least 10 students that I've worked with that have used this app that reacted very positively to it, have their books and their handouts and worksheets in this particular font, and their special ed teachers have told me that their comprehension scores have gone up. So good to expose them to it, or you can choose any of the other fonts that are available here. Also the ability to increase the text size up to 90 points. So again, for your students who are low vision or need less on the page, you can increase that text size all the way up to 90 points. And something else that's really wonderful here that the app developer took into account is you can add character spaces. So many individuals who have difficulty with reading prefer more spaces between the characters as well as the lines. So you can add spaces between the lines here, and look how much easier that looks to an individual who has difficulty getting from the end of one sentence to the beginning of another without it jumping around or skipping lines. So you can adjust those settings along with the student or person who's using it to get it to the ideal reading preference for them. Again, this is going to change the look of any book that they read or any worksheet or handout to what they need it to look like to read. Now the spoken word color and so forth, if you choose custom, you can see I've chosen green, spoken line color, yellow, highlight color. You just tap on any of these and you have the rainbow available to you. You just move that dot and you can change this to customize. Text color and background color. This is where you can create that opposite contrast. So if you need the white on black or the yellow on black for low vision students, you can do this, which is really wonderful, just by changing that text color and that background color. Or perhaps you're just going to choose a little bit of a color background for the student who needs a color overlay perhaps. Sometimes just having not white background is much easier to read. To the bottom left, you can search by chapters, bookmarks, or highlights. I'll show you how to create those bookmarks and highlights. And below that symbol, it says 67 of 132 on the bottom left. That's what page number I'm on. And I can get to any page that I need to very quick and easy here. As you can see, I'm on page 56 now. And this does match the page numbers that are in the book. So I've tested it against many books, and exactly the page numbers match exactly with what's in the book. To the bottom right, the magnifying glass. This allows you to search to get back to a particular part of the book. Maybe you don't remember the page or the chapter, but you remember something that happened. Or you can search for those vocabulary words or anything like that. So even if I put in the word surprise, for example, and hit search, everywhere that word surprise is there, and I can get back to any of those parts of the book very quick and easy. So a neat search tool for answering comprehension questions and so forth. By pressing and holding on the screen, many options here built right in. I can get a definition if I'm not familiar with the word. As I'm reading, that definition pops up. The same method of pressing and holding on the screen and just moving those blue dots, this is how I can create those sticky notes and highlights that you see there on the page. So I tap highlight, and that's the color that I chose when I was changing my colors. Or I can create a sticky note. This is something I want to get back to and remember for a comprehension question or a test question. And this will read out loud to me as well. And as far as reading the text-to-speech, you just double tap for the voice, and I have Sally chosen.
Today the school librarian stopped me in the hall and said she had something for me. She told me to come to the library.
So the Ivona voices are very nice. If I go back out to my bookshelf, I can pull in an example of a PDF. So you can see that PDF worksheets look exactly like the worksheets that you did to the students. The pictures are there if they need it, if it's a graph or any other information. And this can be read out loud. And tapping on my home button again, I will pull up a typical Word document. and this is just a regular Word document. It might have been one that your student was typing. They saved in their Dropbox or Google Drive and pulled it in, and now they want to edit it. That's the pencil icon that's next to the house. This converts it into an editable document, meaning you can type into it. So again, your student could type using the keyboard. There are external keyboards if they need that tactile. There are new adjustable keyboards that you can download, like the Keydogo. So you can have different types of keyboards now available for your students through apps, which is wonderful, and that word prediction there that you see at the top of the screen. Or you could use that microphone. Tap that microphone next to the space bar and they can continue speaking their words into this document. So that is Voice Dream Reader. I'm going to move as quickly as I can through the next one because I know we're short on time because of getting bumped off. Notability is an excellent note-taking app. And again, you will get a description and handout for all of these, and hopefully we can do this again for you since we got started late. Notability allows a student to take notes. First of all, you can see on the left-hand side, you can organize all your notes by subject into color-coded folders. It's very quick and easy to add a folder with just the plus sign there and create subject. You can change the color of it. And to start a new note to the top right, it's a pencil, and you get a nice blank sheet of paper. The wrench allows you to choose the paper. So I can put a little color background here. I can choose lines if I need lines. I can choose graph paper if I need graph paper, which is really nice. And I can also begin recording. So the microphone to the top right is going to record what I'm saying and sync my notes to the recording. So I'll tap the pencil first. Again, I can handwrite notes or use a stylus. And I may not listen to everything that the teacher is saying. Maybe they say photosynthesis. I don't know how to spell it, but I'm going to mark it here so I know to go back to it. Highlighter for important information. Maybe I'm doing math, and I could certainly have the graph paper up and be graphing with the class as well. There is an eraser if I make a mistake. And the plus sign allows me to pull in a photo. So I could take a photo with the iPad right now. I could take a photo of the math problem on the board or the homework or the science project and results. Or I can pull in a photo that's already on my iPad. And this does include any worksheets or handouts again. So if you need them to pull in a worksheet or handout, maybe it's a vocabulary list that has to do with this particular activity, you can certainly pull that in and be able to use the tools of writing right over that. Or you could pull in a web clip. Maybe you want to pull in an image from Google Images. Really a lot that you can do with this particular app as far as taking notes. So I'll just pull in a picture of photosynthesis, for example. And this is the one I want to pull into my notes. I just tap on it and hit done. And now I have this picture of photosynthesis in my notes. But what's wonderful about this is if I stop the recording and go back to play it, it's going to play the notes back.
It's going to record what I'm saying, highlighter for important information, photosynthesis in my notes. But what's wonderful about this is
so you can see that you could have 5 pages or 10 pages of notes, and when you tap on that particular part of the notes, exactly what was said at that time is what's going to play back. So for your student who has a difficult time taking notes, spelling, processing, paying attention at the same time, they don't have to take everything that was said. They can just take what's important and go back and listen to that later, get through those math problems, study for that test. And the arrow pointing out of the box at the top again, you can share these notes, save them in your Dropbox, Google Drive, save the recording in your iTunes if you want to, or share them with someone else. So I am going to click on the chat real quick just to see if there are any questions there. Voice Dream Reader to Read to Go. Yes, so Read to Go will only read Bookshare books and only has Heather or Ryan and the ability to highlight and increase the text size. Voice Dream Reader has access to Bookshare books as well as those worksheets or handouts, which is very important. So that's the difference, and it's half the cost. Voice Dream Reader is half the cost of Read to Go, so I highly recommend it. If you only have a hard copy, can you scan or take a photo of a page and then modify it to use? So you wouldn't use the handout in Bookshare. So that Voice Dream Reader app will access Bookshare books, but also accesses those worksheets or handouts that you scan. If you have a hard copy, yes, scan it, save it to Dropbox or Google Drive, and you can pull that into VoiceStream Reader. Absolutely. Oh, and you corrected yourself. Yep. So exactly, that's what you would do. And I think that hopefully I got to most of the questions. And unfortunately, we didn't get to all the apps that I wanted to show you today, but you will get the handout with several more apps than 5. And I thank you for your patience at the beginning. Hopefully we'll be able to get through this again. Certainly feel free to go to my website, assistivetechnologyforeducation.com, and contact me with any follow-up questions that you might have for anything that I didn't get to show today. And I do appreciate your participation, your attendance, as well as your patience this evening, and look forward to seeing you at another one.